Hello everyone, my name is Amélie Pelletier and this video is meant for my management course. Today I will share with you the knowledge I acquired from taking this class combined with my experience working for a student-run marketing and communications agency that was working with real external clients. In fact, I will take the theory seen in the book called MGMT Principles of Management and compare it with the reality based on my experience working for Bloom Communications as the General Director. I have precisely talked about Chapter 12 and Chapter 14, which are respectively called Motivation and Managing Communication. But first, what is management? Management is one of the core elements of any organization. It is actually about getting work done through other people while being the most efficient and effective. It is about leading and motivating employees while putting controls in place to assess success and goals completion. Now let's get a little piece of information out of the way before jumping into the midst of the subject. That is, who is Bloom Communications? It is a student-run agency started as an initiative from the PwC business program from St. Lawrence College in order to help students from its technical program to apply the knowledge learned in class to real-life situation and a real-life self-sufficient marketing and communication agency. Throughout the previous semester, I was appointed the General Director of Bloom and I was able to observe how such a company works and try with my colleagues to apply as much as possible what we learned in class. Among the 10 projects we had to do, we had to create a promotional video for Harmonia, a poster for the Fraser Recovery Program, and a study for IA Financial Group. Now that we have covered a few basics of the video, let's compare reality to theory. So the reality of Chapter 12, Motivation. The basics of motivation. First of all, what is motivation? It is the set of forces that initiates, directs, and makes people persist in their efforts to accomplish the goal. A few of those forces that initiates and directs the people are extrinsic and intrinsic rewards. Extrinsic rewards are tangible and visible to others and are given to employees contingent on the performance of specific tasks or behaviors. A few examples of those are pay, company stock, benefits, and promotions given to the employees. Then you also have intrinsic rewards that are the natural rewards associated with performing a task or activity for its own sake. A few examples is the sense of accomplishment, of achievement, a feeling of responsibility, the chance to learn something new and interesting, also the chance to interact with others, or simply the fun that comes from performing an interesting, challenging, and engaging task. Also, another basics of motivation is equity theory. That is, the fact that people will be motivated at work when they perceive that they are treated fairly. Now, with everything that has been mentioned before, you have to know that the basics of motivation are also what will help the employee in theory to be able to get the work done because you're going to be motivated to do the work because they'll get rewards at the end and because they feel that they were going to be treated fairly. Now let's see what happened in real life. In real life, working with the Bloom Communication, the student-run communication agency, rewards were extremely important for the students working for that enterprise because the students were adding more work to their semester. In fact, working for Bloom Communication was adding approximately 15 hours of work more during a week of school than a regular student who was not part of this project. So, extrinsic rewards and intrinsic rewards were extremely important for students in order to stay motivated and be willing to do the work. The intrinsic rewards that were given to the students were a salary. So the students were actually being paid for the contract done during their semester. And also another extremely important intrinsic rewards were benefits. The fact that the students were involved in this project allowed them to save a little bit of time in one of their courses, the business careers course. They were able to not do one project aside from the rest of the class because they actually did the project for the clients. Then going to the intrinsic rewards, obviously it was really interesting for the students because they got to apply the knowledge gained in class to real life scenarios. So all of the material they learned in the previous semesters about business, accounting, marketing, they were able to apply this knowledge to real life situation, to real project to help clients build a new poster, build a video, and this was really important for students because that made them feel a sense of accomplishment, and it was really making them feel important because they got to apply what they learned in class. And then another intrinsic reward was that we got to work with real clients from the industry and develop a product with them. So it really made us feel important. It gave us a feeling of responsibility. Then going into the equity theory. I have a quote here put on the screen, and it's if he does not do his job properly, why should I? And this is something that most students in life will say working into a team project, and I believe it's also something that most employees will say in a company. And it was really extremely important in Bloom Communications that all of the managers knew that what they were doing was worth it, and that the next person was actually doing his work as well. Being the general director, I was really trying to focus on the fact that I wanted all the students to feel involved and to feel that they were working toward the same goal. So if one student felt that the others didn't pull up their weight, I was trying to go and talk to them, and really make sure that they perceive that the work that they do is similar in weight with the other students next to them, to make sure that they won't lose their motivation. Now let's jump into chapter 14, managing communication. Communication is the process of transmitting information from one person or place to another, and perception is the process by which individuals attempt to organize, interpret, and retain information from their environment. This means that perception is a pretty big part of communication. And also, perception being a big part of communication, it also means that perception can cause problems while managing communication for different managers who are going to be trying to manage the communication into an enterprise. Two examples of those problems are selective perception and closure. Selective perception is the tendency to notice and accept objects and information consistent with our values, beliefs, and expectations, while ignoring or screening out inconsistent information. On the other hand, closure is once we have an initial information about a person, event, or process. Closure is the tendency to fill in the gaps where information is missing. That is, to assume that what we don't know is consistent with what we already know. Finally, another important point about managing communication is choosing the right communication medium. A communication medium is the method used to deliver a message, because sometimes messages are poorly communicated, and it is simply because the medium wasn't properly chose. So, when you want to communicate a message, two choices are offered to you: oral communication and written communication. Oral communication, according to theory, includes face-to-face and group meetings, either in person or through telephone calls, video conferencing, or any other means of sending and receiving spoken messages. Study shows that managers generally prefer oral communication over written ones because you get to see the reaction of the other person in front of you, and it's easier to adjust what you're saying, the words you're using, to make sure that the message you want to send is clear and that the person receiving the message is actually understanding what you're trying to say. Then you have written communication, which includes letters, memos, emails, and text. It's really convenient. It is faster than oral communication, but sometimes the perception of what you wrote, it can be misinterpreted and people sometimes get confused on how things are written according to theory. Now let's jump into the reality of communication. While being the general director of a communication agency, you realize that communications are extremely important. And during that semester where I was working in the agency, I had to communicate with clients. So this one was really more formal emails, or sometimes we figured that phone calls were easier than emails because you get an answer much faster than emails sometimes in the business world, because emails can pile up into the mailbox of the clients and the person you're trying to reach. So phone calls are really the easiest way to go. So your oral communication, working with the clients, was the best communication medium to use. And then with the managers, some mostly some sort of memos were used. Texts also were used between the managers. Being students, it was easier to just send texts to each other because we already were in the same classes, so we see each other a lot. We could communicate early, but sometimes we were not in the same room, so text messages was really a must for us. And once we did not understand something what the other said, we just had to go to that person and ask, what did you mean? And everything was fine. Then there was also a mentorship working with the teachers. And this one was the hardest one because the teachers obviously had a course load. They had to be there for their other students in their course and not only for the agency. So sometimes it was harder to communicate early with them because it was harder to get in touch with them. So we used emails, but the fact that we used emails sometimes made it harder because there was a problem in the perception and the understanding of what the other person said. While communicating via email with the teachers, I really noticed that perception problems were there. Actually, a lot of students had the closure perception problem. In fact, sometimes information was missing in the email, and the students really had a tendency to fill the gap where the information was missing and to assume knowledge and to assume information that was consistent with what they already know, but sometimes it wasn't accurate, and it really causes a lot of problems because students believed one thing and then the teachers thought that they were being clear and they told us another thing. So really, managing communication is extremely important for managers and even for a general director of a student-run marketing agency, because communication between members of a group and communication between members of the group and external parties are extremely important. Being aware of what the other person is saying and be able to listen to what they're actually trying to say is important because you get to better answer to their concerns, to their questions. And finally, working with clients, you get to deliver a better product because you actually really knew what the client wanted. And also working with managers and working with your employees, it's really better because they feel more of a sense of belonging if they really feel that they're being listened to and that what they're saying is actually important to you and that you understood what they're saying. So this is what concludes our video today. I hope you enjoyed learning more about my experience working for Bloom Communications and learn how the theories in class can actually apply to a real life situation. Thank you for watching.